Hi, everybody. Okay, let's get started. 1,679 days since Richard was brutally murdered on Fort Bliss. Jeez, there we go. Okay, I don't want to run out of energy. Okay, we're going to burn the midnight oil. I've been rushing to get on. It's just crazy day. Every day is absolutely absolutely super busy because President Trump is bringing on the heat. He is bringing on the heat. You just, he's just remarkable. You can't keep up with him because he knows that speed is everything. Speed is everything. And we are, trying as hard as we can to keep up with him and support him. Absolutely support him in what he's doing. So this is day 1,679 days since Richard was brutally murdered on Fort Bliss in the line of duty. This has been confirmed by the Department of Defense. No easy task to get that. No easy task. We have been working day in and day out for over 4 years, um, investigating, documenting, filing, and then analyzing everything, putting all the puzzle pieces together, the names and how they're connected. And of course, that led to the connection of Richard's case to the Walmart mass shooting case. Absolutely connected. And the Walmart mass shooting case, I can tell you right now, definitively, absolutely. It was a targeting and an attack on President Trump. That's what it is. I am absolutely telling you, there is no doubt in my mind that the Walmart mass shooting, the whole orchestration of it, is a very terrible, terrible, deadly mass shooting, was orchestrated in order to target and um, attack President Trump, his administration, the reelection campaign. It was totally political. Absolutely, these are brutal people. And what was their motive? Well, they have a criminal network, a criminal trafficking network there at the border, and hundreds of thousands of children. Of course, the substance abuse, of course, the weapons smuggling and trafficking, which is really, uh, you know, just an assault on the American people because it's out of Fort Bliss. Um, there's just no there. Look, the death camp was on Fort Bliss. The smuggling is on Fort Bliss of the weapons and everything. The bringing in of young girls to really sabotage our young soldiers, right? Our young soldiers, um, and of course the drugs and all of the mischief going on there. And they film it all. They film it all. And if a soldier wants to blow the whistle, they can say, "Hey, look, you want charges? You want charges against a minor? What? Look at we got you on video." Um, you know, eh, Absolutely, the stories that we have heard, um, the sabotage of our military there on Fort Bliss really makes the commanders implicated in all of this. Absolutely, we know that the four-star general, Michael Xavier Garrett, needs to be brought back on and he needs to be court-martialed. Absolutely court-martialed. He was also Vanessa Guillen's general. So this is just not about Richard. This is about many different soldiers that were hurt. And thank you for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the shares. We know it's very late. I'm always very late, but it is because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and you see that to trying to keep up with President Trump and everything that he's doing, designating the Sinaloa cartel as a terrible organization. I use the word terrible, but you know what it is, a terrible organization, because that has a lot of legal implications. And you saw that tonight, right now, 3 minutes in, the tariffs are in effect for Mexico and Canada. Um, Even though Scheinbaum, Mexican President Scheinbaum, did extradite 29, there's more, but the big one, the big push was the 29. Um, Really, a lot of cartel leaders. Some of these leaders are the founding father cartel members, are very very big leaders, and families like Kiki Camarinos, Ki- Kiki Camarena. I hope I'm saying that name right. Have been waiting for over 40 years, right? 40 years for justice, right? For justice. And if you don't know who Kiki was, he was a DEA agent that was brutally murdered, like Richard, taken and brutally murdered, tortured and brutally murdered um, about 40 years ago. And the family have been waiting. And they, I'm sure investigating and wanting to get to the bottom of this. And so this is a DEA agent, right? This family has had to wait a long time. And it shows you the grip that the Sinaloa cartel has had on El Paso, on its inside its agencies, inside its judicial system. If a prosecutor is compromised, they'll just have maybe like a shredder beside their chair, and just if a complaint comes in or a whistleblower complaint comes in, they can just shred it right there, right? And they're tampering with timestamps. This still is going on. And we filed about all the tampering going on. Of course, we know with Richard's case there was tampering going on, and they'll even tamper with the timestamps. This is how bold they are. And they will prevent the transparency of government. It is really an attack on our system. And why do they want to have the prosecutors? Why do they want to have the judges? Why do they want to be able to tamper with timestamps and tamper with files? They want to affect an election. They want to affect an appointment. They want to absolutely control the political apparatus there in El Paso. They want to do that, and so that they can make their billions of dollars illegally without paying any taxes on any of the money, but illegal, absolutely unethical, absolutely sinful criminal trafficking activities, including the hundreds of thousands of children through Fort Bliss. Get the taxpayers to pay for the death camp, right? And uh, then the weapons smuggling, get the taxpayers to pay for the weapons, and the use of these tactical move storage units, the transportation, right? The energy, the oil, and they're very, very clever. But not that, I think they just got too bold. They just got too comfortable with their criminal activity with impunity. They were Because they did not have to fear the judges. They didn't have to fear the prosecutors. They didn't have to fear the AUSA. They didn't have to fear the politicians, right? You saw that with Veronica Escobar. She refused to hold a congressional hearing for Richard. if they're not going to do anything, right? If they're unable to do anything, if they are just impotent, but they're collecting all the money. This is a fraud on the public, a fraud on the people, and that's why they need to be held accountable. And you saw this now in New York. Today was just an exciting day. There's so many things. I want to talk about those 29 founding fathers of the Mexican cartels and what that means. But I want to also say that the accountability is coming, right? Jaime Esparza there, the AUSA, the prosecutor, the firewall. He wasn't really the prosecutor, right? He was doing nothing. Um, he was just the firewall to make sure that nothing was prosecuted, right? I don't know. Did he have like a shredder beside his desk? I don't know. I don't know. Let's just shred any kind of decency. Let's just shred any kind of whistleblowing reports. Let's just shred the law. Let's just shred the law, right? Um, but he was fired, rightfully so. We are getting information, and that says there's a very, 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 very high possibility that we also received our wish, our request that immigration judge Michael Pleaders was also is now out of a job. We're hoping that that's the case. He is the husband of Veronica Escobar. They're very up to no good. They are so up to no good. They are so, so up to no good. So we hope that we get our wish there. It's looking very, 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 the possibility is very high. So if you know that they release that information, please let me know because that's very important to us because that was a request that he be fired. Um, also, it looks like a good possibility that even the State Department, and we see that Secretary of State Rubio is doing very, very well, just doing remarkable things in this very, very short time. And we're getting indications that the general counsel there up to no good, that gives these criminals these visas, right? These visas to do harm in the United States, right? Knowing that they're criminals. It's so obvious. Meeting with them, and allowing our politician to have really unauthorized meetings with them in our consulate. So that is Raphael Foley. We're hoping that he also doesn't have a job anymore. And we know for a fact that the New York FBI field office there, their head agent, I just read his name, but that he also was fired. They always say, oh, he resigned, whatever. Whatever. He was fired. He was absolutely fired. They would never want to leave their little cushy jobs, okay? Especially, and he's going to say, it's not cushy. It's hard work to shred the law. It's hard work to shred decency, right? Um, but he absolutely lost his job, and we have absolutely seen, witnessed, if anyone's paying attention, what has been happening up in New York, which there's no excuse with all of our taxpayers' money. That things like what was happening up in New York should be happening. We should have the absolute best law enforcement because we pay a lot of money to have it, and yet they absolutely abuse their power and misuse what we have entrusted them with. And it really is a good day when one of them is fired. They absolutely fired. So we'll see who comes into New York. Our eyes are on El Paso because that's the front door. That is the front door to the United States. Of course, it is where our son was murdered on Fort Bliss, and our eyes are there. And I even think that sometimes this whole Zelensky and Ukraine war thing is like a diversion. Um, I'm keeping my eyes on El Paso because um, that is where I think even the kinetic activity is going to happen because right now the tariffs have taken effect. This is really hitting those countries, in this case, Mexico, but of course, Canada is in play too. But I'm keeping my eyes on El Paso. Mexico now has been hit with tariffs, and this is uh, really changing the dynamics of everything. With a shut border, with law enforcement at the border, not only law enforcement, but what is it, 12,000 military boots on the ground, also striker force. Um, so you have a real effort to protect the border. That message is out there to protect the border. Um, so then you're bottlenecking production and or human trafficking, the substance, bottlenecking the substances that want to try to get over here for this $1 billion criminal enterprise where they don't pay any taxes. They just hurt. They just hurt, hurt, hurt. Um, and I'm bringing that up because this is illegal activity that has been allowed to be profitable to the extent where it will be a stumbling block to so many other people, especially after you had the mandates that closed people down and destroyed small businesses, and they have families to feed, they have a life to lead, and so this was a huge stumbling block that was allowed to develop and bring in people and hurt their lives, really hurt their lives. It really is just really sad, just a terrible thing what has happened. And of course, then you have to have the corruption in the politics to protect, to control the judicial system and the law enforcement system, to act because it's illegal activity, to continue to act with impunity. And then you have a lot of willing people because they have families that they have to feed, right? Because of the terrible economics and the allowance of such a criminal economic enterprise to allow it to flourish like it has, with this open border. It's very, very criminal, and it really hurts so many people, um, and gives a false sense of security to others, right? To others that might enjoy it because they have no character, no ethics, no duty to God, no fear of God, no moral compass, right? No moral compass. Hundreds of thousands of children, that are, going through a death camp on our Fort Bliss, I mean, it's just sickening. It's just really, really sickening. Um, well, on the taxpayers' dime, y'all. So, Richard, Richard, I'm so proud to be his mother because I know that they were filming and I know they had these honeypot plots. When I was listening to the honeypot plots, I was like, oh my gosh, uh, was Belen Rocha a honeypot plot that Richard didn't fall for? But he was absolutely such a caring person. He didn't fall for her. He loved her, right? Love, not in a, uh, in a way of, oh my gosh, this cannot be happening. This exploitation of young girls, this grooming of young girls to bring them into the barracks and to pimp them out in order to film and, of course, for money, and but to film them, to have them compromise, to compromise our military, right? Um, and Richard didn't fall for it, but um, he was reporting to 9/11, of course, and CPS, and um, because there's, children involved, of course, and he was reporting to the IG, and he was reporting to the CID, and he was reporting to FBI Houston, and he was reporting to Washington. And, um, the main target was President Trump. I can tell you that. And because, and MAGA, and the reelection campaign, and, the false narratives, the media is so evil, y'all. The media is this legacy media is so evil, because they are just there to brainwash or manipulate stories in order to protect the criminal trafficking enterprise, and all the fraud, the Walmart mass shooting victims funds, over $12 million. There's so much fraud in that, y'all. And that was money given by people that were caring with a heart, and even taxpayers' money. And there's so much fraud. So this all has to be addressed, and we are absolutely trusting in our leadership at this point, because of seeing the leadership of the FBI field office in New York being fired. That is so wonderful. Oh my gosh, that is so wonderful. And now we're really, because we know that the FBI office, even though we are always willing to work with them, we have kept in touch with them. Agent John Morales, we have asked him, begged him, demanded from him that he arrest Leilani Hart. Absolutely. We know that Agent Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. Is up to no good. His wife works in intelligence on Fort Bliss, absolutely connected to Bradford Bugado, the Lieutenant Colonel G3 and Richard's chain of command, 32nd ADCOM, right? Whose father-in-law, Mr. FBI man, that found Richard's remains, but it's a secret, right? It's a secret. But is also connected to Western Frontier Trading, trying to sell ammunition to the El Paso Police Department, $3 million, and connected to individuals. Yeah. It's just all, it's, like this little, very, uh, I don't want to call it a fine tune, but they're a corrupt group. They're a very corrupt criminal group, and it leads back to Richard's unit, to the prime suspect, Dallas Hart, whose mother is Leilani Hart, that absolutely needs to be arrested because all her crimes are very, very well documented. Um, and the FBI really, I don't know why they're just sitting on this, unless they're compromised, right? Unless are they aiding and abetting a terrible group, right? A terrible organization. Are they aiding and abetting a terrible organization, right? Because we know that Eddie Nieto agent that's connected, and all this with the intelligence and that, leaked the key whistleblower report, um, identifying the prime suspects in our son's case, also, um, notifying them and exposing that there were leaks and interference in our son's investigation, identifying CID agent Tavita Nusa as a prime suspect in the harming, um, in the murder case of our son. Along with Dallas Hart, along with Leilani Hart, um, and that was leaked out to who? To Tavita Nusa, to Leilani Hart. It was leaked out, and Judge Roger Rodriguez's name, in his capacity, who filed that whistleblower complaint, his name was leaked. His name was leaked, and can you imagine in January of 2022 when we were frustrated, very frustrated, because we were letting the CID know that there's something they were leaking in the CID office, that something was really stinky, that we were absolutely being targeted, that Richard was being targeted. His investigation was being interfered with, and then in January 2022, we get this amazing corroborated whistleblower complaint from a judge in his official capacity, right? Willing to risk um, that position. We were very cautious, to be honest, but at the same time, we were just like, oh my gosh, okay, this is good. This is so good. This is such a huge help, and to have then us to be retaliated against, right? That's when the people came. Oh, well, first it's like they're your friends. Angela Kachurga came. Ugh, what a nasty, nasty person. She's such a nasty person. She is so up to no good, y'all. She is, whew, what? Keep your eyes on Angela Kachurga, 'cause she's up to no good, and she's very connected to Jesus Nieto. And for her to come and try to, oh, now I want to interview you now, right? Um, but by the end of it, it was, she, it's just so hard to explain to people. You have to see their eyes and understand that she was very unhappy, and that we had now a whistleblower um, report identifying the interference, and absolutely legitimizing what we knew was true, and what we were claiming. So that there was interference, but that we had help. That this whistleblower complaint was helping us, and she did not want that help for us, right? She did not want it, and I told her, I said, of course it helps us. No, she didn't want that kind of help. Um, so she's up to no good, and so you can imagine how we felt, and it's been, absolutely step by step in faith, knowing that what we were uncovering was very hard for the public to understand and believe, that this cover up could be so extensive, right? But now with President Trump absolutely exposing the extensive grip that the Sinaloa cartel has uh, built into our judicial system and into our law enforcement system, because when you're making millions of dollars, you can easily bribe people, hire people, whatever. But now they are designated a terrible organization, which means any kind of business with them, any kind of business with them, you can't sell them a car, you can't work as their maid. You can't do their lawn. You can't, knowingly do that, because then you're aiding and abetting a terrible organization. And so this has changed everything. And um, but I don't think it's really the cartel leadership that President Trump. I mean, I think it is, but I think from our information that we're getting, he wants the narco politicians. He wants those narco politicians, those politicians that have violated their oaths, that have shredded the Constitution, that have shredded their duty, that have hurt so many people on the taxpayers' dime. On the taxpayers' time, they violate. They absolutely. It's treasonous. That's what it is. It's treasonous, and this is very important to us because we know that Richard was murdered by, and allowed to be murdered by the green flag of his chain of command, implicating his chain of command in criminal activity, because there's no other explanation that there would be an orchestrated or an okay or a green flag to murder a whistleblower soldier that volunteered and was a distinguished honor graduate for his cycle and basic training in AIT. The guide on bearer, the patriot that does not have any compromised video taken of him, right? No compromised video taken of him. Wow. They tried, right? They tried. Because it was Boleyn that gave us the video of Richard, burning the money, um, saying, "I rather burn my money than spend it on whores and blow." Right? Oh, he was giving her a message there, right? And then they found out that he always had some Hollywood money on him, that he had purchased Hollywood money. It, he was just an amazing, amazing young man. Um, he had Hollywood money for the kids from um, uh, that he worked with when they would be really good and whatever. He said, "Okay, I'll give you $100 bill. I'll give you a Benjamin. I'll give you a Benjamin." Mm. So, yeah, Soto was really upset when he's like, he bought $70 worth of Hollywood money. Why would he do that? I said he did that in Ireland too. He did it for his karate kids. He'd buy some Hollywood money, and if they did really well on their kata or whatever, he'd give them a Benjamin. It would be, for motion picture use only. But anyway, um, they tried to whatever, and everything was just he was just beautiful and beautiful. When they tried to frame him at the traffic stop, he was standing in at attention, and so courteous. So courteous. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just beautiful. He was just so beautiful. Um, I'm so proud to be his mother. And they just took his life. They need to be held accountable for what they did, for what we lost. He should be probably married by now, having his first child, um, giving back to his country, what he was trying to do. Um, they need to be held accountable for what we lost. And we're going to work very, very hard because we know there's other parents that feel the same way. Those children, those hundreds of thousands of children that they call unaccompanied. They're not unaccompanied. Yeah, they're unaccompanied. Well, I don't know if they're unaccompanied. They're with traffickers, right? But they were taken. They were taken. You don't have, you know, Pied Piper. Or do you have Pied Pipers? Just get these children unaccompanied over the border like that? No. Sorry. You'll never convince me of that. These were taken children, and these were trafficked children. And um, are absolutely forced to, um, yeah, it's just a terrible situation. So we absolutely need to continue. Where um, even in our exhaustion of all of this, we're totally energized. We're energized by President Trump, um, and his continued leadership, which absolutely we need leaders. He's the one that designated them terrible organizations. He's the one that is firing these compromised judges, and it's a very hard thing because you don't want to. You have to be very careful, right? You have to be very careful. But if you're working in a job, keep your journal. Keep your journal. Write down what you're doing. Rob, I know, has done that since Walter Reed, the old Walter Reed, when he was a perfusionist. He wrote down everything every day, what he did, and he kept a journal, and that has been very valuable through this whole process and investigation into our son's murder. Um, just to learn how to do that. And of course, my journal is this video journal every day to tell everybody what is going on in this case. And it is really a realignment of the United States. I think all eyes need to be on El Paso. I hear there's some rumbling going on of the ground. That's very interesting because don't forget there's a lot of tunnels. Um, and you've got a lot of military there right now uh, with new leadership, uh, a Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Uh, so that means business, and I think that you saw the 29 founding fathers of the cartels. Well, most of them were just really, really big players. You saw the extradition of the finance cartel leader. And of course, I think they're all going to be at Guantanamo and uh, see what happens there. I'm so glad I'm not, I'm, I'm just a soldier, the mother soldier going forward. And, uh, you know, uh, trying to let the public know what's going on. Um, Talking about the DA a little bit, Montoya, absolutely, he's not the DA. He's absolutely not. I don't even know what you call him. Um, I don't even think he is. Is he a usurper? I guess maybe he's a usurper. Um, but his paperwork is absolutely bunk. It's absolutely bunk. And, the county clerk of El Paso, Delia Barones, now brought into this, right? She's now brought into this. She's the one that stamped it with 2028. And she didn't even need to stamp it. I'm, we have all these, uh, well, one possibility. There's just one possibility of what happened, but we're going to let them tell us whether, otherwise I'll tell you what we think. But I can tell you this, that James Montoya was with Jaime Esparza during the whole Walmart mass shooting thing. He was the assistant district attorney with Jaime Esparza. He was there with when Richard was murdered. He was in the DA's office, and he went back. He left when Yvonne Rosales, but he went back in November of 2024 as assistant district attorney into that office, and that's he went back early, and so he took his oath of office before submitting his statement of officer, which is an anti-bribe statement, on January 1st, 2025. And they proceeded then to really try to juggle a lot of tampering, and he just blew it. He just absolutely blew it, and he is not the district attorney. So who is the district attorney? And we've been notifying her. Yvonne Rosales is really the holdover according to the Texas Constitution, Article 16, I think, section, I have it, uh, it's, it's not one of the first ones anyway, but it's the holdover clause that says that, Yvonne Rosales, no matter what, she has the duty, she has to come back and be the DA until someone is appointed, until someone wins the election. Um, and so, we absolutely have notified her. So that is huge. Then, of course, we have the Michael Maiella Jr. situation. Well, I mean, the senior situation is bad enough because he is Michael F. Maiella, is the director, manager of the federal courthouse that was held the hearing for the Walmart mass shooting, right? The federal case had the federal case there, had the plea deal and everything, 7,000 years at the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Um, just it's just all botched because Michael Maiella, behind the scenes, his daughter was marrying Patrick Crucius's brother, right? There's not supposed to be any family connection in El Paso, and yet there it is, right there in the federal courthouse, with mitigating evidence because they knew that, because we have the mitigating evidence that Patrick Crucius is not a racist, he's not a white supremacist, he's autistic, he failed kindergarten, didn't even do well in his special needs class, his special education class. He was sitting off to the side, hitting himself and everything. His reflexes are not good. He wasn't even speaking until just almost 6 years old. Um, just all kinds of problems there. And he could absolutely not carry out such a fast reflex, such a planned, what you need to do to carry out a mass shooting like this in 5 minutes, right? In 5 minutes. No, he went and bought an orange, and then who knows with the cameras and all of that, because Michael Maiella Jr. worked for Walmart security, and worked for the DA's office, Jaime Esparza, with James Montoya, right? And that tells you why Judge Guadarrama was compromised in all of this. Um, it's like these are all buddies, these are all old friends. Um, and right there working with him, is Michael Maiella's dad's working with him right there, managing his cases and his court and everything. Um, so it is really, uh, and of course, Michael Maiella Jr. was also at the FBI, And and he's an award-winning number one award-winning hacker, hacker. Um, that's not me. That's just out there, right? That's just out there. Um, that's what happened. So football player, I mean, I don't think he played against Dallas Hart, even though they were playing football at the same time. But one was at Hanks and the other one at Franklin. I think he played for Franklin. So yeah, but I think good football players absolutely know who's who. Um, and then of course, I'm making sure I get all the news because there's so much news. Uh, the whole DA's office, the whole criminal law magistrate court, the federal court, the chief medical examiner, um, you know, uh, Fort Bliss, just compromise, compromise, compromise. You see what President Trump is up against right now because in order to get justice, you really have to clean house, right? You have to clean house. And so, who's next? And I'm hoping that it will be the FBI there, field office, that they will be next. So we have been begging, we have been really begging Agent John Morales to do his job, right? We've been really begging him to do it, to do the right thing. So, and, we haven't gotten word that you would think that he would write us back and say, ma'am, we have arrested Leilani Hart. Go have some champagne, go celebrate. We have arrested her. You would think that he would absolutely, um, you know, communicate that very, very good news to us. Um, so we'll let you know when it happens. But otherwise, it's very indicative that President Trump is not messing around, that Kash Patel is not messing around, that Pat Bondi is not messing around. It's good indicative when the head of the field office in New York, FBI, is fired. It's New York is huge. New York is, um, I want to call it the financial capital of the world. Um, I don't know. London London is unique. It's Greenwich time. It's the only place in the world where you can um, you know, make trades all over the world in a day, right? In the same day. It is really zero. It's Greenwich time. So, but New York is very, very important, and someone can absolutely educate on that whole financial thing and why they have to have the grip on it. And it are some players in Richard's case connected to New York 100%. 100% they are connected to New York. And of course, and other places. So this is absolutely a network. It is criminal trafficking that has been being designed and established for over 40 years. Okay. And that's what the whole, um, I think that these fathers of the cartel that were extradited to the United States will be able to tell those stories. And without them, I think that the whole network is really hurt badly. And without the narco politicians, I think the whole system will be hurting badly. So, to shut the spigot off of the money, to close up the border, to take the uh, experience and the fathers of the cartel, those godfather like figures out of the cartel network is a huge, huge, right? It's really big because, family is so important. Family is so important. And our elders are so important. They have so much knowledge, and they've tried to take that away from us. Um, our, they just have so much wisdom to tell us, and how it all began and what to be careful for and to be diplomatic. A lot of these, I shouldn't say it, what we've all learned through all of this, because I don't want to give any criminals any ideas. But yeah, we are absolutely seeing a whole restructuring, and that restructuring needs to happen in order for us to get full accountability for the murder of our son. Um, and also the main thing that we want, and that is his remains, because he was murdered on Fort Bliss. He was murdered on Fort Bliss in the line of duty, and we want his remains. And we were told by Nadal Baim they found his remains. And there's CBP Borstar found his remains. Um, so, and there's more. There's so much more. So we want his remains. And in order to get that, there has to be this restructuring. As far as Ukraine goes, because I've been asked about Ukraine, um, you know, uh, I believe President Trump closed the spigot off of that. Absolutely. Ukraine is complicated, and it's, I know that Europe, since the launch of the euro, that's been a disaster. That's been an absolute disaster. Matter of fact, in Germany, they call the euro the Teuro, because the word teuer means expensive, means inflation, right? That's what teuer means. Very dear, very dear. And it has done nothing but harm to Europe, because those countries are each very, very different with very, very different needs. It's not like the United States. You cannot compare it to the United States. They're very different. And so the common money just could not work. It just doesn't work. And they have uh, invested badly, and they buy a lot of energy from Russia. They talk so badly about Putin, but they spend a lot of money for energy from Russia. They did all the China stuff, like with all the solar and wind and everything, and it just doesn't work, right? It just doesn't. I mean, you get a little energy, but not what coal gives you, not what the black gold gives you. No, not what natural gas gives you, and they buy a lot of that from Putin. So, all their rhetoric is rhetoric. Um, and there isn't free speech. And I know from stories that I've read about the Walmart mass shooting case, about Gerhard Hofmann, Alexander Hofmann, Alexander Gerhard Hofmann. When I read the German papers about him, it's really, oh, wow. The truth is, uh, let's just say it is, it's missed. It's missed. They've missed the mark. They've absolutely missed the mark. And, uh, you know, so it's very interesting, um, what's happening in Europe. They can't afford really war, but they want a war, or they talk a war. You know, but they need the energy from Putin. It's just, it's so complicated, and I'm so glad that we have a peacemaker, because peace is the only thing that makes sense. You know, everyone stop what you're doing and just do, your regular activity. Forget about war. Forget about war, and do some other good things. And yeah, because that's the only thing that makes sense. Everything else is just disastrous, absolutely disastrous. So I think Zelensky was very shallow. I think Beto O'Rourke supporting Zelensky is very shallow, super shallow, so un American. It tells you that Beto O'Rourke is very un American. It tells you he's up to no good. It tells you, there's some red flags there in El Paso. Who are they for? And, Veronica Escobar is one of them. And of course, Michael Pleaders, her husband, thank God. I think he's been fired. He's immigration judge. So, yeah, who are they for? It's like they're not for peace. They're not for peace. They're not for mineral deals. They just want war. How do they know Putin? They want to go to war with Putin and hurt Europe because they go to war with Putin. They're going to hurt Europe because how is Europe going to get energy? You know, it's just so crazy. Uh, they have an evil intention, and or they just absolutely hate Trump above everything because they don't because Trump closed their border, because Trump put striker unit at the border, because Trump put 12,000 troops at the border, because Trump put tariffs on Mexico, and um, got 29 extraditions plus more of major cartel leaders that have a lot of information, because these are the wisdom people, the wisdom, the fathers of these cartels. So, you know, it's yeah, it's clear that there is more to the story than their rhetoric and their narrative. And clearly, they lied about Richard. Um, they just lie, 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 and but we're putting out the truth. So come to us for the news, and as soon as we get it, we'll absolutely share it. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.